The sponsor for today's podcast is Sita EcoMission. EcoMission is a tool that simplifies compliance, cuts cost, and offers real-time insights to support sustainable operation at airlines. Sita EcoMission helps airlines handle regulations like Refuel EU, CORSIA, and EU ETS, making compliance easier while supporting better, greener choices. Learn more in the link in the show notes.
What we know for sure is that we are likely to be living and operating in a world that will be highly more constrained and highly more regulated, especially in terms of climate impact, CO2 impact. And we strongly believe from our current analysis and prospective scenario on energy and climate scenario that we can compete and even offer a very compelling value proposition with the hydrogen-powered zero-E aircraft when compared to the other solution being Jet A1 or SAF.
Welcome to Sustainability in the Air, the world's first podcast dedicated to sustainable aviation. I'm your host, Shashank Nigam, the CEO of Simplifying. Every Thursday, I have important conversations with top aviation executives, technology entrepreneurs, and policymakers helping aviation take climate action. Conversations that help separate the signal from the noise. Whether you are a frequent flyer or an airline executive, if you care about sustainability or simply love traveling, welcome aboard. My guest today is Guenan. She is the Vice President of the Zero-E ecosystem at Airbus. For those who may be unfamiliar, Zero-E is Airbus's ambitious future aircraft concept powered by hydrogen. Karine and I talk about what it will take to make this ambitious project a reality. What are airlines giving as feedback to Airbus to build this, and how Airbus is working with policymakers and governments to make hydrogen-powered aircraft a reality. By the way, the planes look beautiful as well, so Google Zero-E, and I hope you enjoy this conversation. Karine, thank you for joining. It's so good to be speaking with you finally. I'm very curious, firstly, to hear about your journey within Airbus and what led you to your current role as the VP of the Zero-E ecosystem.
Okay. So it's nice, Shashank, to be connecting with you and having this conversation today. And I'm looking forward to a very enjoyable exchange. So yes, currently I'm acting vice president for Zero-E ecosystem at Airbus Future Programs. I've been what we could call a veteran in this company. I've been in the group since more than 20 years. And before then, I was far away from the aeronautics industry, but you won't be surprised to hear that I did my first arm into the industrial gases industry, working with Air Liquide on air separation units and, oxygen, hydrogen, and many things in my competency of international financier. I joined nearly by chance Airbus Group as a financier as well, in the 8-year GV between Airbus and Leonardo, caring about the customer finance globally, but also thereafter developing strategy for leasing offer for the regional market on turboprop, and then leading the commercial leasing sales, asset management, and freighter programs for 8 years before thereafter joining Airbus Group finance group, being the ensuring the liaison between finance and commercial. You won't be surprised by this opportunity, combining my two competency in finance and commercial leadership in order to support the commercial teams in registering new sales, both Airbus commercial, but as well helicopters and defense and space, while protecting the interest of Airbus, interest meaning the balance sheet mainly, and as such leading as well the Airbus Bank in Munich and the Airbus Financial Services setup that we have in Ireland for all what concerns our leasing exposure, finance exposure, and everything. And again, while connecting my background of industrial gases with infrastructure, I get to connect with the Zero-E team, Glenn Llewellyn. And at the time, he was looking for somebody to structure the ecosystem activity, quite something brand new for Airbus. And that's how I joined the journey, the fantastic journey of Zero-E. It would be now 3 years. And since then, I deployed all my energy and team colleagues' focus in understanding and deploying our ecosystem strategy to prepare for the timely deployment of I would say, external condition of success for the Zero-E commercial entry into service by 2035. I'm sure you are well aware. We made very public our ambition as Airbus. We unveiled back in September 2020, our different aircraft configurations and plans for a first hydrogen-powered commercial aircraft to take the skies in 2035. We believe this is a realistic objective, being nonetheless very conscious of the challenges that we have to manage throughout this ambition of 2035 targets.
It's very ambitious indeed, and I would love for you to unpack this a little. 2035 might seem a long time away, but it's a decade. And a decade in a new aircraft development program is not very long. Can you run us through some of the key milestones working backwards in the next 10 years? What are some of the key milestones you will need to hit and challenges you need to overcome to make the Zero-E program, which is hydrogen-powered commercial aviation, a reality?
Yeah, thank you for your question. This is very fair indeed. 2035 as an ambition for commercial entry into service could seem far away, but given the magnitude of the disruption of such a program, not only from the technology standpoint, but as well from the ecosystem side of things, it's like tomorrow for us in preparing the ground for a successful entry into service. And if you look in the coming years, we started back in 2020, as I mentioned earlier, in order for us really to prepare for the right condition to support a program decision that we would make in the wake of 2027, 2028, in order to be ready for commercial entry into service. And this means a lot of activity on our side and a lot of challenges to tackle. On the technology side, we need to mature the needed technologies that we mentioned, essentially from the propulsion standpoint that will very much influence the size and range of the Zero-E aircraft. If you remember what we unveiled different concepts that will be addressing the 100 to 200 seats market on the 1,000 up to 2,000 nautical miles on two different potential technological platforms fuel cell propulsion and direct hydrogen combustion. And today, all our teams we are exploring those technologies in order really to fuel our main pre-programmed dates and select which is the technology we will be selecting in a few years' time, because we won't develop every options, right? And we need to understand which is the most promising, which is the most feasible in terms of technology, in order thereafter to get up to the point I already mentioned for a program decision 27, 2028. And indeed, you mentioned given the disruption and the ambition, we are to de-risk many funding block. First is the technology side. As I mentioned, it's about the propulsion, whether we never add an aircraft on hydrogen combustion. Likewise, this type of size of aircraft, meaning we are talking commercial aircraft, powered by fuel cell. So it's about maturing those technologies, but it's also maturing and understanding better the, for example, cryogenic hydrogen storage. We know that we need the hydrogen, the fuel, in its cryogenic form, which brings...
Just to jump in, are you able to explain what is a cryogenic hydrogen storage? For those who not
you can have hydrogen in gaseous form or liquid form. Liquid is possible when cryogenic form at minus 253 degrees Celsius. And this is...
So for this aircraft, the hydrogen will have to be stored in a liquid form in minus 200 degrees Celsius.
Exactly. Because if you were to consider gaseous forms that certain of our industry colleagues might be considering for very small aircraft platform, we can't, given the molecule we are dealing with, we could not take off with a gaseous form, and we need it in its cryogenic form for density consideration, right? And this is bringing additional challenges, as you might appreciate, because cryogenic at minus 253, it's not easy, and calls for very specific hydrogen storage. And what makes it different as a key enabler on this new zero-E aircraft is that, contrary to what we are doing today on legacy program, where you have the jet fuel in the air for cryogenic hydrogen molecule, we will need to have dedicated insulated tanks in the aircraft, so we can't put cryogenic in the current distribution of an aircraft. So this is another technical challenge.
So hold on. So you will have liquid hydrogen at the airport, and the same liquid hydrogen will also make it onto the aircraft. There's no gaseous hydrogen at all. So it's like today's fuel, where it's a liquid that's going in. It's not a gaseous form.
Exactly. In fact, if we want to oversimplify what we are exploring, is today I'm sure you are very familiar seeing on an airport platform Jet A1 refueler fueling aircraft, and tomorrow we will do in fact quite the same with a refueler with cryogenic hydrogen, refueling a zero-E aircraft with tanks for welcoming cryogenic hydrogen. So this is the mission, and my part and team contribution into the journey is more on the ecosystem side of things, meaning all the airport on-ground infrastructure and related regulations that we are preparing for the right equipment and infrastructure to be well prepared. It certainly challenges on the technology side, but it's also a quite unprecedented challenge on the ecosystem side of things, because so far, even though we made fantastic brand new programs in Airbus, it's the first time that we are facing this new challenge of also creating the external conditions in the ecosystem, because we can have the best and most hydrogen-powered aircraft. If this aircraft can't be operated, can't be refueled at the airport, I mean, we are missing a big elements in this.
Yeah, this brings me back. This is so interesting. Firstly, thank you so much for sharing in detail, in depth, what this means in terms of the ecosystem. This does bring me back to when the Airbus A380 was launched. In my opinion, it's still one of the best aircraft from a passenger comfort and passenger experience point of view. Yet there were certain airports that needed, a wider taxiway so that the wings are not blowing the grass and the dust, for example, because of the wingspan being wider. There were airports that needed to install additional gates, which were specifically for the A380s, exactly, with the new air bridges. And those were very small infrastructure requirements from airports based on what you're telling me is required for the zero-E ecosystem. How do you work with airports to make this a reality? Because this is like double the challenge now. You've got to sort out the airport and the aircraft.
Exactly. It's quite unique, but it's what makes it so exciting as well, right? And that's also one of the main reasons why we decided to reveal publicly back in 2020 our ambition for this zero aircraft, being very conscious that from an ecosystem perspective, we would need to team up with the best-in-class partners, naming the airports, the airlines, the hydrogen suppliers and distributors, the government, the regulators, in order to prepare for those conditions related to the ecosystems. And you might have seen from time to time our vision of around the hydrogen hub at airport that we are deploying and entering into consortium agreement with those partners in order to together studies which are the conditions to prepare for the infrastructure, to secure hand-to-hand supply chain for the required hydrogen, to check indeed in the airport master plan, do we have the land available in order to welcome this new equipment or new infrastructure, to understand also are the ground refueler capable of coming to the parking stand, refuel the aircraft, we are just talking basic things that we forgot now that we have to redone since our industry.
It was never, the assumptions were never questioned, right?
It's never been re-questioned, and we are feeling like the pioneering this new low carbon aviation by triggering those conditions and understanding better how we can best prepare for those conditions. And that's why we have made also public a certain number of our cluster worldwide. You might have seen maybe most recently one we made public during Farnborough Air Show with Gatwick Airport and Air Products and easyJet, but also one another in Spain, which gather the entire end-to-end stakeholders from the renewable energy down to the airports, because we want to consider the very specificities of those airports. They are not all the same, and they are not all the same constraint in terms of master planning, but also in terms of global environment and access to an hydrogen supply chain. Likewise, we are also working with the energy suppliers, because depending on the region of the country, you might appreciate that we have also different challenges accessing already existing renewable power capacity, existing hydrogen production facilities, or in certain circumstances and certain deployment scenario, it can well be as well for us analyzing our access to ports or to existing, for example, gas backbone, because in certain regions of mainly Europe and US, for example, certain part of the existing gas backbone can be repurposed to transport gaseous hydrogen. And you can appreciate that as soon as you have one of those airport position not too far from the backbone, it makes the case quite interesting to be studying how you can access this backbone and then, of course, liquefy the hydrogen and supply it up to the various parking stands. So this is all about, creating this new competencies that with humility Airbus did not have so far, but we are, our team is a proof that we are building that competency, but we would not achieve it without the shared competencies as well of our partners, airports, energy suppliers, regulators, and airlines in building that new knowledge. Because, talking about the Air Liquide, Linde, or Air Products, which are leaders, international leaders in the hydrogen domain, certainly they are leaders in the domain, but they knew nothing about aeronautics. Of course, they knew a bit about space industry because they've been for decades supplying the liquid hydrogen for launchers, but for aircraft, it's never done, and that's what we are currently building through this different consortium we are building worldwide.
Wow, I'm a bit overwhelmed thinking about your work and how much needs to be done to make this a reality. But it seems like a chicken and egg situation. What comes first? You've got to have the partnership with the airports. You've got to have the supply of hydrogen, not just at one end, but both ends. You got to have the aircraft. Are you able to tell us a little about, the partnership, for example, with easyJet and then the UK and Spain that you're doing, for example, in building this ecosystem? What comes first? easyJet, as far as I recall, has not ordered these hydrogen-powered aircraft yet from Airbus.
Not yet. We have not yet an aircraft to sell.
Exactly.
That's exactly what we are preparing for, because we want also this aircraft to be a real compelling value proposition for airlines, and that's all the rationale behind the consortium we are building, and the one you mentioned in Spain or UK. Those studies we are making enables us to identify the pathways to select first which will be the airport transformed and equipped to operate hydrogen-powered aircraft, right? In the different countries, and to evaluate also the accompanying regulatory framework. So we have a space for airport infrastructure. It goes with regulatory framework. We are also studying the operations with the airlines, what it means to operate this future aircraft on those platform, and we always learn something from those study, and it goes up to understanding the end-to-end green hydrogen value chain that we can access from this airport. As I said, each airport has its own master plan, specific geographical features, and access to renewable energy. Some are more constrained than others, that make each our study quite unique. And we are building each time all those funding blocks of the study. And as of today, we have, beyond the UK, the most recent UK and Spanish one, deployed in 14 different countries. And the recent partnership with London Gatwick and easyJet and Air Product, like any other, will enable us to identify for UK and for Gatwick what are those conditions to move.
Did you mean for UK and for Spain airports?
Yes, I mean, because you asked a question for those recent two ones.
Yes, correct.
I wanted first to tell you that it will be the same as the other 12 consortium we have worldwide, but obviously we also favor a lot the extensive experience and engagement of easyJet in deploying a low carbon platform. It's a long-standing partner to us, and Gatwick appeared to be quite an ideal platform, really, to study the entire case of what it means to deploy and operate a hydrogen powered commercial aircraft like the one we are exploring on this Gatwick platform. And it's very promising in terms of short, medium haul focus, like the one we have. So for us, it's quite, I would say, obvious that UK and Spain, like many other countries, will be front runner in deploying decarbonized flying solution like the one we are working on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for educating us on the ecosystem. Let's talk about the aircraft itself. It is a blended wing aircraft, if I'm not wrong, or is it part of the family? Or is blended wing the main design, the 100 to 200 seater you're talking about?
So far, we unveiled the different aircraft concepts, right? And depending on the on the selected range or number of seats, it can take the form of a turboprop aircraft, a turbofan, or a blended wing. What we are seeing, and again, we made no firm convergence yet. It's very likely that the blended wing will not be the very first platform to come to market, but it's a promising design that we are studying.
Got it. Where will this aircraft fly?
It will fly, as I mentioned. We are quite adamant on our ambition for a commercial entry into service in 2035. That's what animates us every day, and that's our lighthouse, really, to the retro planning of all our activities from a technology standpoint or an ecosystem standpoint. We want to be ready and gather the right conditions of feasibility and success in order to support a go program timely enough to enter into service in 2035.
Wow. Still sounds extremely ambitious to me. And I mean, it's a big uphill task. One of the more interesting partnerships you've recently announced is with Avalon. Now, you have a leasing background yourself and financing background previously in ATR. This is one of the first partnerships for the Zero-E project with an operating lessor. How does this partnership work, and how will it shape the commercialization and financing? of hydrogen-powered aircraft?
Shashank, you said it all, I think. Operating lessors are playing a pivotal role in our commercial aircraft market, right? They are very significant players when it comes to speculative orders, but as well as sale and leaseback arrangement for airlines. And then for us, it was quite obvious, and it's not related only to my own background of knowing well this market segment, that we could get a lot collaborating with a lessor like Avalon, which is recognized as one of the most leading worldwide lessor, in order to explore not only the operations that we are exploring with an airline, but as well all the potential of this aircraft in terms of focusing on the leasing business model, because there is no reason that our current legacy family of aircraft are very attractive to lessors. We want our zero aircraft to be as attractive as our existing products, and it's for us then fundamental to be collaborating with Avalon to exchange on the potential of the hydrogen aviation, identify which are the key market levers and the associated transformation that goes with it. And it's a great privilege to be preparing this roadmap of actions with Avalon to address those challenges of the future, for which we also consider that lessors will play a role in channeling or in distributing, if I may say so, this future great asset to the market. Did I answer your question?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, you did. You've been very thorough, I have to admit, and thank you for doing that. Let me go back to hydrogen as a fuel source. Why hydrogen? I mean, there have been previously talks about using LNG as a fuel source, or electric is definitely there as a fuel source. You've talked about the versatility of hydrogen. Can you explain the advantages of hydrogen versus other alternative fuel sources that you may have considered?
Yes, sure, absolutely. So we did not come to hydrogen by chance, but we considered at Airbus and believe so that hydrogen is one of the most promising decarbonized fuel, of course, when produced from renewable energy, because hydrogen does not produce emission and can be used, when you mentioned versatility, can be used both as a feedstock for producing e-fuels, eSAF, through the power-to-liquid pathway, but also being a direct fuel for an hydrogen-powered aircraft, be it H2 combustion or fuel cell. So we strongly believe at Airbus that hydrogen is very promising. And maybe let me, before answering all the good reasons why we think it's highly versatile, maybe step back, because here I'm so enthusiastic about hydrogen. Let's not forget that we Airbus are super engaged in every possible levers of decarbonizing our industry. And you know that, of course, it's about fleet renewable, incremental development on our product, disruptive technologies. That's the one I belong to on the zero-e initiatives. But the most immediate one is about SAF. Our current aircraft are already capable of embedding up to 50% of SAF blending. And we are committed as an industry leader in decarbonizing our industry and getting to a sustainable world to make this possible up to 100% SAF compatibility by the end of this decade. So we are really active on each and every of those levers, not to forget, of course, the ATM. But coming back to the hydrogen, you can appreciate here that hydrogen can feed not only the hydrogen aircraft, but as well at very large scale, the production of eSAF, so much needed immediately and in the decades to come to decarbonize our current fleet in service and future fleet. Hydrogen, as I mentioned, when it's being produced from renewable energy, does not emit at all CO2 and air. In terms of climate credential, we are all battling in order to contribute to bring to market solutions that limit or do not emit any CO2. And hydrogen has also the potential to reduce as well the non-CO2 emission, like NOx and persistent contrails. And that's really the rationale for us of being strong believer in the climate credential of hydrogen. And contrary or differently, I don't want to oppose to the JT1, for example. I'm sure you already know that hydrogen, green hydrogen, is not only a lever or a fuel to decarbonize the commercial aircraft industry. It's also a very much recognized molecule to decarbonize many other industries. Talk about chemicals, mobility, maritime, and many other different usages that are starting even before we do. And that's also a very different game changer. We are talking about a molecule that we could produce at large scale in order offering the decarbonization lever, not only for aeronautics, but as well for many other industry. And we are sharing kind of same interest of same destiny in the scale up of the hydrogen economy. And that's what we also put behind versatility. We are convinced that by scaling up and consolidating all this demand for the same molecules, there is no difference. You can get it gaseous form or liquid, cryogenic form, as we mentioned earlier. But we are talking same molecule. And if we, and again, in our collaboration, you might have noticed that we are also partnering with non-aviation stakeholders, because we have exactly the same interest in securing our access to this competitive hydrogen production and distribution at the right volumes, right price, and right places. And that's what we put also behind versatility. And this scale-up means also for us the capability to be acting on declining the cost of production and distribution of hydrogen from all these different possible usages than for us. And
let's talk about this, right? You mentioned
yes.
Cost.
Yes.
Hydrogen currently is very expensive and rare. And also, you already mentioned there are other sectors that will potentially compete for the same molecule of hydrogen with aviation. Where do you see the cost of hydrogen fuel compared to jet fuel, let's say in 2035 and beyond when you start flying?
So that's a good question indeed. Today, we tend to be biased by the fact of the current prices of JT1. But in tomorrow's world, and we are not here to predict what will be the price of JT1, but what we know for sure is that we are likely to be living and operating in a world that will be highly more constrained and highly more regulated, especially in terms of climate impact, CO2 impact. And we strongly believe, from our current analysis and prospective scenario on energy and climate scenario, that we can compete and even offer a very compelling value proposition with the hydrogen-powered zero-E aircraft when compared to the other solution being Jet-A1 or SAF.
Fair enough. Okay, let's say the costs start coming down and it becomes competitive. What about safety? When we mention hydrogen to any layman, normal public, they think about the Hindenburg. What is Airbus doing in terms of enhancing or safeguarding the safety aspects of a hydrogen-powered aircraft and entire ecosystem, actually?
I would say nothing different that what we've been doing and still doing today. Safety is at first in everything we are doing at Airbus. And it's just mandatory for us to achieve the same, or even better if we could, the same safety targets than the one we have achieved with the existing commercial aircraft and all our family. Extensive safety precautions are currently taken into account in the design, in the operations of today's kerosene-powered aircraft. And the stringent approach that we have taken on kerosene aircraft has ensured the industry consistent safety records, right, throughout all those last decades of operation. And it goes exactly the same for hydrogen-powered project. Hydrogen is safe. Hydrogen is non-toxic. It's no more or no less dangerous than other fuels, or including gasoline and natural gas, for example. But what the difference is that we've been used to gasoline and Jet-A1 and natural gas. We are not asking anymore any question about it because we have records of safety, and it goes exactly the same for hydrogen. For example, in an event of leakage, of hydrogen dissipates even more rapidly into the atmosphere. Because it's the lightest molecule on Earth. So I would say that there is nothing different in terms of safety, and you can be sure that anything we are doing, be it on the technology, on the operations, on the ecosystem, safety is at the heart of everything we are doing and we are de-risking. So we'll keep exactly the same and even more ambitious safety targets as for today's aircraft.
Fair enough. I trust you with it. And I know safety is at the heart of all aviation new project developments. What about public education? The general customer is not used to flying on hydrogen aircraft. What is Airbus doing in educating the customers and other stakeholders what this hydrogen aircraft and entire ecosystem means?
Yeah, very, very interesting, because, we are, as a leader of our industry, more used to be talking to industry stakeholders and directly to the public. But we are also very, very conscious that what we call dissemination matters a lot to us. Because again, we are very engaged in bringing that low carbon flying solution to society. It goes even beyond business boundaries. So we need also to be talking to a broader public about it. And how we do that, in fact, besides, I would say, our airport clusters that we talked about before, we are also very active in disseminating our own learnings sharing about it and making it understandable by the public, in order also that they are part of the demand for those new ways of flying with no impact on climate. How we do it? We do it in different ways. First, we are, for example, collaborating with the Airport Council International in Europe and at the level of the worldwide ACI, because we want to disseminate our clusters study and learnings to any interested airports in the world, in order that they can also take all the benefit of our key learnings, lessons learned, and that they can also benchmark on their airports colleagues to know what are the best scenario for deployment and learn from them. Another main activity I mentioned quite quickly is also our collaboration in cross-sectorial mode with other industry player. And we are also, for example, part of the WEF Airports of Tomorrow initiatives and project, in order there as well disseminate a lot of our learnings and knowledge about it. And last, that has maybe the most impact on broader public, is the initiative we launch throughout alliances and associations, and we have active role in, for example, in UK, hydrogen in aviation, HIA, but also at European level with ASEA, Alliance for Zero-Emission Aviation, that we launched back in 2022 under the auspices of Commissioner Breton during ILA 2022, being conscious that not only it was an effort from certain industry leaders like us to explore and design new technology and new aircraft platform, it was also very much about gathering the external condition of success for the entire ecosystem and be talking to the broader public. You could look backwards at the ASEA vision we revealed during ILA 2024. It was this June. We revealed an entire alliance vision with really the objective to reach the broader public in a simplified manner. We are trying also to make it understandable from the broader public so that they understand how we are building the roadmap to bring to market those low carbon flying solution, the zero-E aircraft, in order that they can fly tomorrow with no impact on climate.
Wow, it's very ambitious, Karine. I'm as inspired as I'm anxious about this program. Tell me, do you realistically believe 2035 is achievable? Do you think there might be some delays?
I do believe it. As I said, this animates all of us here. I'm talking on behalf of all my teammates here. It really animates us every day. We feel privileged to be experiencing and contributing very concretely to this pioneering program. But of course, being at the same time very humble and conscious of the different challenges that we have to tackle. And I'm not telling you it's easy every day, but we strongly believe in our ability and the ability of the entire unprecedented collaboration that we have been, I think, but you to tell me from the outside world to prove throughout those collaborations that we are building the right blocks to make it a success by 2035.
Indeed, it is the collaborative effort that gives me the most hope personally around this. Let's say everything goes according to plan. 2035 its entry into service, passengers start flying, let's say on easyJet between the UK and Spain, and then you expand from there. Let's say we get successfully to 2050 and it's a huge hit. What's the best case scenario here? What percentage of the global fleet do you foresee hydrogen aircraft to be operating in 2050? And what is going to be the total impact and reduction of emissions from hydrogen aircraft in 2050?
Yeah, very, very good question indeed, because from entry into service in 2035 up to 2050, which sounds like, of course, our industry is committed to net zero by 2050, but it's not the end game of our decarbonization as an industry. And it's very true that if you look just at the window of 2050, the zero aircraft will have still a marginal contribution to the entire decarbonization challenge of our industry. And that's why I wanted also to avoid a misunderstanding about it, that we not only believe in hydrogen technology to decarbonize, but we also very much engage on every and each levers to decarbonize our industry. And again, we need all of them, not one or the other, all of them in order to achieve the net zero target by 2050. But it's very true. And that's a nice question, because it's very rare that we could have a conversation about what after 2050. And let me tell you that, of course, the SAF is viewed as a great immediate decarbonization levers, and in the wake of 2050, one of the major contributors to the decarbonization. And that's why we are catalyzing as well in the offering. We are quite sure of the demand, but we need to have the offering to be capable of really deploying far more volumes of hydrogen. And when I mention far more volumes, we strongly believe in the hydrogen-derived eSAF. That's a means to go for it. But coming back to the contribution of the hydrogen-powered aircraft after 2050, it will then, step by step, start to be contributing more and more because of the climate credential. It does not emit any CO2, and potentially, depending fuel cell or H2 emissions, quite significant also credential on the non-CO2. And that's make it very successful levers for the long-term future. So that's what I could share in the horizon of beyond the 2050 horizon, where we might be retired from them, but still an eye on it, because we owe it to the future generations.
Thank you, Karim. I really appreciate the full holistic view on the challenges, the ecosystem. This is not just building a plane and just putting it out there and expect that everyone will start flying it. You've got a major uphill task, and I'm glad that you feel up for it. I think your career at Airbus speaks volumes already.
Yes.
But this was extremely helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope it was. Shashank, it was a great pleasure to have this conversation today with you.
Thank you very much, Karim.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sustainability in the Air. Aviation is one of the hardest to decarbonize industries, yet there are multiple paths to get to net zero. Awareness is key to a green future. So please give us your support to help our sustainable aviation insights reach a wider audience. You can do this by sharing this episode on your network, on LinkedIn, Twitter, or even WhatsApp. Or perhaps you might consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to this episode. You can start a conversation with us by writing to us at podcast@simpliflying, that's simply with an I.com. And for more content on sustainable aviation, please visit our website green.simpliflying.com and join the movement. Sustainability in the Air is an original podcast by Simpliflying. The show is produced by Juraj Toth in Slovakia. Dirk Singer is our Director of Sustainability, who leads research for each interviewee out of Greenwich, UK. Shubhadeep Pal is our supervising editor based out of Mumbai and Singapore. The articles are written by Ayushi Badola in Dehradun in India and Meera Hull in Montreal, Quebec. Creative design is led by Ligia Esteve in Montreal. Baiba Drimen is the project director for the show based out of Valencia, Spain. Special thanks to Wendy Sim in Singapore. And I'm Shashank Nigam, the CEO of Simplifying and your host. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.